Hello YouTube, it's the Magnum94 here, back with another stupid Nintendo article. Now today I'll be reading an article titled "The Switch Shows Nintendo Has Learned Nothing." Now really this article should be titled something more along the lines of "From what we know so far, Nintendo has learned nothing." Which I know that's a long title, but I feel like considering how this article focuses more on like misinformation or the worst possible outcome of information we're not entirely sure of yet, I feel like that would be a much better title than just straight up saying Nintendo has learned nothing. But I'll describe that further when I actually read the article. So yeah, let's get started. The recent deluge of information surrounding the upcoming Nintendo Switch has a lot of people talking about whether or not Nintendo has learned from its past mistakes. The company is making the same mistakes that it made when it released the Wii U, proving that they haven't learned much since the release of that console more than 4 years ago. First, what is Nintendo doing right with the Switch? They've distanced themselves from the Wii brand, making sure that consumers know that the Switch is an entirely new product, which that is a good thing. For some reason, people back in 2012 thought that the Wii U was just an add-on to the Wii. They thought it was just like a tablet peripheral to the Wii. I don't understand that, especially since the games shown in the commercials and the advertisements straight up looked a lot better than Wii games. Like New Super Mario Bros. U was a noticeable upgrade from New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and Zombie U was not on the Wii. I don't know. I kind of get it, I guess. People who played the Wii were not real gamers, so they weren't like big in the industry. But I don't know. It happened, and with marketing, they definitely could have marketed the system a lot better. And I am glad that they're clearly showing that the Switch is something entirely new. Just getting it out there right up front, showing that it is a console handheld hybrid that you can take on the go. It's something completely different from their Wii brands. So, yeah, they are definitely doing that right. They've also made it very clear what the console does, clearly demonstrating how the system switches from the TV to portable mode. But other than that, Nintendo is still making mistakes they've been guilty of for years. Now, get more into that as we keep reading. The Wii U launched with 34 games, and while this is much larger than the 6 games currently shipping with the Switch, it was almost entirely comprised of third-party releases. Now, this article was written on the 26th of January, and even before then, along with the ones listed in this chart down here, Zelda 1-2 Switch, Skylanders, Just Dance, Bomberman, I Am Setsuna, and a Binding of Isaac, which I believe is getting a physical release, and a bunch of other indie games are all shipping at launch. So right now I think there's overall 11 games. I think 7 or 8 of those are box games revealed right now to be coming. Which, yeah, it's not big, but I'll get into why that's not a big deal later on if I need to. But almost immediately after launch, the third-party support died out. This was largely due to the fact that any game released for that system had to take advantage of the Wii U gamepad. That's not entirely true. Madden didn't really use it, even though it should have. And Call of Duty, you just like tap to use airstrikes. So like, yes, they used it, but I wouldn't put that as a detriment to putting games on the console. And also, people don't seem to understand that the Wii U launched with 34 games. That was actually a detriment. That is one of the main things that led to the system not selling all that well. You could say, oh, but how could that be? It launched with so many games. That's the point. People, when they buy a new system, they generally buy like 2, maybe 3 games along with it. And with the Wii U, that would be New Super Mario Bros. U, maybe Zombie U, and then 1 or 2 other third-party games. So you're getting like Call of Duty, Madden, FIFA, Mass Effect, Ninja Gaiden, Batman Arkham City, just like all these games, and you can only really pick 1 or 2 of those. making it so that none of those games that came out at launch sold very well. Like Zombie U barely, I don't even think hit 1 million. So even though it does look like the Switch's launch lineup is small, because it is so small, there's a higher chance that all of these games will sell relatively well. Unlike what happened with the Wii U, with all 34 of those games were competing against each other, making it so that none of them sell very well at all. Which in turn, third parties thought, hey, our games clearly aren't selling on this system, let's just drop support. So, yeah, releasing with only like maybe 10 games, it wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing, especially for a March release. The console's poor sales didn't help matters. Publishers didn't want to support a platform that wouldn't sell many games. Those. Hang on. This doesn't make any sense. Those interested in releasing games for the Wii U had to. This meant that those interested in releasing games for the Wii U had to implement extra features for any game that was ported to the platform. It didn't have to. Like, you in theory could have played any game with the Pro Controller. Now, a lot of games probably should have used the gamepad, but they just kind of didn't. And I still don't understand why, considering there were so many possibilities for like maps, inventory, like mini games, like just things they could do with the gamepad that third parties especially just didn't capitalize on. And like apparently Tomb Raider didn't come out on the Switch because they didn't think of anything they could use the gamepad for, even though there was a map and inventory. Like that's something. And even the first party games like Donkey Kong straight up don't use the gamepad. So they didn't have to use the gamepad or all these or the Wiimotes or whatever for every game. But the Switch doesn't have anything quite like the gamepad to adhere to, but its multiple controls mean that every game developed for it needs to run properly in multiple playstyles and power outputs. If you're referring to motion controls, that's not going to be an issue. But because other than motion controls, which the Wii U also had, and Nintendo didn't force third parties to use motion controls in their games, at least on the Wii U. Every other control option on the Switch is a standard control option. The two Joy-Cons separately, standard buttons, then put in the grip, standard control. The Pro Controller, standard control. The Joy-Con slipped onto the tablet, standard controls. So I don't understand what you're trying to say here. There's no new way of play with the Switch outside of how or where really you play your console games. So I don't exactly understand what he's trying to say here. Again, probably just like a worst case scenario of stuff we're not entirely sure about yet. But whatever, let's keep reading. The Switch does have a fair number of third-party titles lined up, but the majority of them are ports of older games like Skyrim, and it's confirmed, and it isn't confirmed if the Switch is getting the special edition or the original release, and smaller indie titles. Now, regardless of if it is the special edition or if it is special edition or not, there have been multiple comparisons from the PC version to the Switch trailer that was released, and the Switch version looked a lot better than the PC version that was released 5 years ago. So regardless of if this is the special edition that the PS4 and Xbox One got, it's still a better version than the one on PC. So that doesn't really matter. It looks like recent major blockbuster titles won't be making their way to the console, however. Just last week, it was confirmed that Titanfall 2 and Borderlands 3 would likely never come to the system. And I'll get into Titanfall 2 in just a second. But Borderlands 3, it kind of seems like Gearbox has never really been a big fan of Nintendo. Even they didn't really put anything out on the Wii either, even though it was the best-selling system. But even like Activision and EA, if like they release some standard like mainline game like Call of Duty 3 or Modern Warfare 3, I think Black Ops, and EA released some spin-off games like their Dead Space spin-off. So yeah, I don't know why Gearbox just kind of hasn't been the biggest fan of Nintendo, like ever. A Respawn designer stated that the reason for this was that porting the game just wasn't possible, remarking, "No, F no. No, you're not going to be able to fit Titanfall on it. That's the same Zelda from the Wii U." Okay, this sentence right here, this comment, is taken so out of context. Even people watching the video don't understand what they're saying. This line right here was taken from a live stream that the people at Respawn, the developers at Respawn were doing while drunk for some reason back in October when the Switch was first revealed. They saw the reveal trailer while they were drunk in a live stream, and they were commenting on it as it was happening, and they were like, and I guess someone in the chat asked them if Titanfall 2 could come to it, and they just assumed that because the cartridge looked too small that they weren't going to be able to fit their game onto it. And again, because they were drunk, they assumed that the Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Switch is the same game as Wii U, even though it's proven time and time again that Breath of the Wild looks way better on the Switch over Wii U. So, yeah. Now, I don't think Titanfall 2 will come out to it, but quoting that isn't necessarily the best source of information. Nintendo has never focused on graphical prowess when creating a new system, but this also isolates them from a lot of third-party developers who are trying to push the limits of what new hardware is capable of visually. The Wii U was home to a handful of fantastic Nintendo exclusives and some interesting indie titles that took advantage of the console's unique two-screen setup. But there was also several months each year where next to no games come out for the Wii U, and the Switch looks like it's already set up to follow the same patterns. Hang on. This is true. The Wii U had constant droughts. But if we're just going off first year alone, we have two massive games at launch. If you consider Bomberman a massive game, which I do, considering Bomberman has kind of been dead for a while, so bring him back. And Zelda at launch, Mario Kart the next month, along with Snipper Clips, and like all these other games in between there. ARMS, Sonic Mania, Lego City, all these games probably in May and in the summer, or in June. Splatoon probably in July or August. Skyrim probably September or October. Mario Odyssey in November, and then all these other games. Rayman Legends probably coming out near launch. Xenoblade 2 probably October or November. Ultra Street Fighter 2 probably another April title. Fire Emblem Warriors probably September. So at least in the first year alone, we can see that Nintendo clearly has a steady stream of games coming out throughout the year. Even if it is just one game a month, that's something. And also, we don't know all the third-party support that's coming yet. We know that 80 games are in active development for this system. And we don't know how many of them are, at least 80. We don't know how many of them are coming out this year. The next Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed very well could come out this year, but since Activision and Ubisoft haven't revealed those games yet, they're not going to be on this list. Nintendo was not going to reveal in their Japanese reveal of the Switch, they were not going to reveal those games. It just wasn't going to happen. So there are plenty of games that very could easily come out this year. That could be ports or new games, whatever. And even next year, if the system continues to sell well, we very well could get ports of old games because developers see the Switch as a potential market to sell their games. That's how this works. Where was I? Okay. Reggie Fils-Aimé recently spoke to CNET about Nintendo's approach to launching the Switch, saying that they are creating a steady pacing of content that continually reinforces for the people who bought into the platform why they made a smart choice, as well as what compels people who might be sitting on the sideline to jump in. So Nintendo Switch's launch lineup is sparse, so Nintendo can save some of its bigger titles for later in the year, ensuring that those who want to pick up the console in 2017 will always have a brand new title to play. But this pacing of content is what led to the downfall of the Wii U. No, it wasn't. Well, let me finish this paragraph. Third-party support quickly dried up, and Nintendo was forced to single-handedly support the platform with a carefully paced lineup of releases. People seem to just kind of forget exactly what happened in that first year, and I'll go briefly into it now. Nintendo was so confident that third parties were going to port and release all their games to the Wii U that they thought that they could delay Pikmin and Wonderful 101 until the fall, or at least late summer, early fall. So because of that, there was about 6 or 7 month gap in 2013 where literally nothing was released for the system. We got Lego City Undercover, I think, in March or February. What was next? Need for Speed Most Wanted in January, maybe. Monster Hunter 3, I think, came out in March or somewhere in there. And then Rayman was supposed to come out in February, but Ubisoft decided to delay it until later because they wanted to release it alongside Xbox 360 and PS3. So that game didn't, even though there was a prime spot for it to be in February of that year when nothing was coming out, I probably would have bought that game then. They just, so much stuff happened that set the Wii U up for failure. If third parties had spaced their games out a little better instead of just releasing them all on launch day, they could have sold better. If Warner Brothers had released Arkham City like in February or March, it would have sold better. Mass Effect 3, if they had waited just a few months and released all 3 in the collector's edition like they did on PS3 and 360 a few months later, it would have sold better. Same with Ninja Gaiden. Just so many games I feel like would have sold a lot better had they not been at launch. Like, it makes sense for Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty to be there at launch, and FIFA and Madden, but those other games that aren't super appealing to the Nintendo gamer, I feel like they should have been spaced out a little better. But yeah, it seems right now that Nintendo has the grasp around the idea that they cannot rely on third parties anymore, and they shouldn't rely on third parties anymore. That's why they have all these first and second party games and partnerships like Street Fighter 2 and Bomberman coming in the first year. Like, I guarantee that if Nintendo had thought, they can just rely on third parties, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 wouldn't be coming out in 2017. And because Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is coming out, something that people wouldn't think would be coming out so soon after Xenoblade Chronicles X, that I have a feeling that means that they feel pretty confident releasing that this year, so that means they have something coming out next year and so forth. I just feel like people aren't giving Nintendo enough credit for everything they've been doing so far. So, let's continue. The Switch's unique setup isn't the problem, though. The problem is that Nintendo hasn't shown any concrete methods of using the Switch's features that will take full advantage of the portable console hybrid. Huh? What? What do you mean haven't taken full advantage of the hybrid concept? Playing Breath of the Wild on the go. Playing Skyrim on the go. having Street Fighter 2, you're playing it by yourself, and then a buddy comes by and you're like, hey, what are you playing? Oh, I'm playing Street Fighter 2. You want to play? You hand them a Joy-Con, you can play together. And same thing with Bomberman. Like, there are so many ways that Nintendo has already shown that this console handheld hybrid is a great idea. Especially since you essentially have multiplayer straight out of the box with the two Joy-Cons that can be played on their side. Granted, the one on the right doesn't look too comfortable, but I'm sure people could get used to it. 1-2-Switch is a smart way to illustrate that many uses of the HD Rumble technology built into the Joy-Con controllers, but these controllers are being marketed as the heart and soul of the Switch in Japan, specifically in Japan. I do think that Nintendo should not have shown them off so heavily in the beginning, making it seem like, oh, this is just another Wii, because really there's like a 10-15 minute period where 1-2-Switch and ARMS were shown off, and then really after that it was just a lot of games that didn't really use them, like Mario Odyssey and Splatoon and Xenoblade 2 and Fire Emblem Warriors, like all these other games that show that Nintendo isn't focusing on the Joy-Con motion controls. They're just showing, hey, this is something that we want to keep doing, and if developers want to use this, they can. So yeah, it's not the heart and soul of the system. In fact, in that sizzle reel of all the different ways to play, that the motion control wasn't even one of them. It was people sitting around playing Switch multiplayer, playing Mario Kart or playing Splatoon or whatever. Let's continue. What makes them such a pivotal part of the pivotal part of the system ecosystem, other than the fact that they allow for multiple playstyles? Isn't that enough? I feel like that should be enough. I'm just saying. If Nintendo doesn't do a better job of marketing these new devices and why they are such a game changer, it's likely that very few developers will take advantage of the technology. You know what? I think that's fine. Nintendo, I think they just had this in there because I feel like they were going to sell the system at $300 regardless. They thought, you know what? Let's add in motion controls and this HD Rumble idea, so that way people feel like what they're actually getting is worth $300. That's just my theory on this. So I feel like Nintendo will go all in on motion controls, at least as an option for their games. Like ARMS, you don't need to use motion controls. You can use regular button controls. So yeah, I don't feel like Nintendo is going to force third-party devs to use this concept. It's not being used for Bomberman or Ultra Street Fighter 2 or probably for FIFA. Nintendo has existed in their own ecosystem for the last several years. They've been underpowered compared to their competition since the GameCube, which that was the either tied for or it was the lowest selling system of that year, which is why of that generation, which is why Nintendo felt like they needed to change and become more innovative while forgoing power. But they've continually focused on creating new playstyles with systems with the DS and Wii, which are their two best-selling systems of all time, with the DS tying or surpassing, depending on what numbers you look at, the PS2, and the Wii being the third best-selling console of all time. While this ingenuity has helped them stand out, it has also placed them behind the industry as a whole. The Nintendo Switch is an incredibly unique gaming console, allowing the player to seamlessly switch from playing on a TV to playing on a handheld. The company itself is making the same mistakes all over again. While the Switch is still an incredibly intriguing product, it isn't poised for greatness just yet. Hang on, did I miss where exactly you're saying that they made all the same mistakes? It kind of seems like you're saying it's underpowered, they're not getting third party, yes. But I don't know, never mind. maybe Nintendo can turn things around after the Switch hits the store shelves. They would need to maintain third-party support and do a better job of showing the true potential of their new machine first, though. The Switch can certainly still be a booming success, but Nintendo needs to stop making the same mistakes it had made in the past and move forward with the rest of the industry. Okay, I see what you're saying here. Essentially, this is, from what I gathered, especially from that last sentence, that this guy just wanted the Switch to be another HD twin box, another PS4 or Xbox One that only focuses on power and only focuses on one way to play, and gets all of the third-party support and has great online and has, which granted that would be nice, but what incentive would people who have PS4 or Xbox One, what incentive would they have to buy a system that's just like theirs that has Mario on it? You don't see people who play Xbox go over or buy a PS4 for the most part just so they can play Uncharted. So it wouldn't work that way. I feel like Nintendo, if Nintendo did release a beefy system, it would probably do very well. But especially right now, considering how the Wii U didn't sell very well, but the 3DS is selling extremely well, I feel like it was the smartest thing for them to do right now is combine their console and handheld divisions and make a system like this. Essentially, if you look at this system as the best handheld that has ever been made, then you're good to go. This is one of the best systems, period, if you're looking at it in that way. But if you're looking at it as a console you can take with you, that's also amazing. And again, like, we don't know all of the games that are coming. We don't know that third parties just aren't going to put their games on it. And especially with the Wii U, considering a lot of people just didn't buy the old ports, what made third parties probably thought, okay, we're just not going to put our old games on the system just now. We're going to wait a bit and see how the system sells first. I feel like that's honestly smarter of them to do. So, saying that Nintendo is making the same mistakes again, even though we don't have all the information, the system isn't even out yet, I feel like you're jumping the gun a bit too soon. So, in the comment section down below, tell me what you think. Do you think Nintendo is making the same mistakes? Do you think that the Switch is going to be successful or not, or even like not a success just because of this? And what mistakes do you think Nintendo has made? Now, granted, just a couple of things off the top of my head. The online being paid for, not necessarily a mistake, but it's something that I kind of wished wasn't there. Honestly, the greatest mistake Nintendo has made so far is just the fact that they focus so much on motion controls in that original press event. I feel like if they had saved that more for the middle, or just said, "Oh, this is something that's in the system," it wouldn't be as big of a deal. People wouldn't see it as something that's as big of an issue right now. So, yeah, but right now, as far as marketing goes, they seem to be marketing it pretty well as a console you can take it on the go or to the bathroom, which that's a pretty funny commercial to me. So right now, I feel like they're doing everything relatively well, especially better than the Wii U. And right now, I think that's all it really needs to be. But yeah, like I said, if you have any more thoughts on this, leave in the comment section down below, and I'll see you next time.